How are you?
I'm good, thank you, Anna. How are you?
Very well, very well. I'm so excited to have a chat with you because you and we are both in the space of healing people, but from different angles, from different perspectives. And I really want to come together with you today to talk about something really, really important that I see is happening for so many people. And that is going through a personal crisis. But before we go on, I want you to tell a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Yeah, well, I think it's a very timely conversation. We've both been on a journey of sorts. So I have followed my calling, which was completely unexpected. So I read tarot cards. And I bring messages through from spirit to give people clarity and guidance. And I also use astrology in my work now as well. So that's basically in a nutshell. I help people from all over the world. They send me messages or they contact me and they need guidance in some aspects of their life. So I bring them clarity and guidance and help them with their situation.
Yes, I know. And you are really amazing at what you're doing. And that's why I wanted to have this talk to you today, because I'm sure you have seen many people going through some really big transformations right now. And as you know, I'm a personal coach, and I'm mainly focusing on helping women to figure out their purpose and to find clarity around their identity, who they are, especially around midlife, because that's for me, that's been one of the biggest turning points once I hit 40. And I think this is so important right now because again, back to astrology, I've discovered that we're going through those 7, 8 year cycles where life is changing again and again and again. So you will be really good to speak about it today. Um, but tell me a little bit more about your understanding of this topic of the dark night of the soul. And why is it called like that? Because that's the topic we're going to talk about today.
I think it's a term that most of us have come across. And we immediately think, it's some kind of experience that's particularly challenging, perhaps even some kind of initiation. It's something that somebody goes through. And to be quite honest, I often wonder why it's called the Dark Night, because it's more than a night. Sometimes it can, last for a few months, even in some cases a few years. So I think that the Dark Night is more of a general term. And it's basically something where we are literally brought to our knees. It's the type of situation where we feel as if we've been thrown into hell, quite frankly. And in some cases, it also feels as if there's nobody or there's nothing at all that can actually help us. It's almost like being stuck in a pit of despair without any way forward. And it's very difficult to have hope and optimism if you have absolutely no clarity and something catastrophic has happened. It could have been a financial collapse of some form, it could be career challenges, it could be a relationship breakdown, it could be a health crisis for you or for a loved one. So it's a major thing that happens.
Yes, yes. And I didn't even know what this meant before it happened to me. I thought, this is something other people can go through, like somebody is dying in the family but I think it's way more than just losing somebody or um, having a bad event in life. I think it goes so much deeper. through the mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual dimensions of our being that it's definitely worth talking about. And I think what I wanted to say today is the reason why we decided to do this is because both you and I, we've been there. Yeah.
Yes, we both have. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And because we don't want to just talk about it as from the professional experience, but also I think because we have a lived experience with having that dark night of the soul. And because you know and I know that so many people are going through some kind of a crisis right now that is affecting their entire life, I think it's really a good time, is the best time to start sharing some tools, helpful guidance with people who are not finding their way out. What do you think?
I think there's many, many people all around the world who are going through all kinds of things at the moment. There's a lot of people who are feeling very lost. Um, and it also seems as if the conventional ways that we often turn to are not always able to help. Of course, it's absolutely critical that we first start off, we follow standard advice. But I think what often happens in those situations when we're absolutely pushed to our limits, we're pushed to the absolute brink of being able to cope with a situation. I think depending on where we are with that, we really have to start to find the bigger meaning. We need to find some strength from somewhere. I think that's the most important thing, first of all, is to find strength and to look for the bigger picture here. What the bigger meaning, as well as obviously being making sure that we're able to cope with the on a daily basis, with the more pragmatic aspects of daily living and practical self-care or caring for other people. Once those things are in place, we then need to turn to the bigger meaning of our lives. What is it that we need in our lives? What are we missing? What has this challenge exposed? What has it opened up?
Yes, that's right. And can we talk a little bit more about what exactly happens, at that event rather than just some other bad event happening? How is this dark night of the soul is different to, say, losing a job or, having a marriage breakdown? What do you think? How would you define it?
I think what we would be talking about with a Dark Night of the Soul, it's something that is absolutely life-changing in many ways. It's a situation where we feel like we are absolutely pushed to our limits. And it's very difficult to see a way forward. It's something where we're literally getting through the day is an achievement. It might even be a situation where getting from one hour to the next is a massive achievement. So if anybody is in that particular situation, you've got to remind yourself how well you are doing to be getting through the days, first of all. So that's really when you're in the absolute depths of despair, mentally, emotionally, possibly physically, is just getting through each day. And then, as it moves away from that really, really acute phase of just being in survival mode and just trying your best to keep going, to keep on getting through the days, to keep showing up. Once that stage of the Dark Night of the Soul starts to lessen, there's starting to perhaps move more into wondering what was the purpose of this, or how, how has this changed me as a person. I think that next stage is where we start looking more at what life adjustments am I going to be making as a result of this major, possibly totally unforeseen or unexpected event. How is this now making me redefine myself as a person? So I think that's really what we need to be talking about here, because obviously we need to kind of be at a point in time where we're starting to almost look back. We've got through that immediate survival needs phase, which would, involve sort of professional support, or the basics need to be taken care of. And now we're sort of looking more at, well, what exactly do I need to change about my life? How can my life be more focused on honoring my own truth, and what is my purpose in this world? How can my life have more meaning?
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah. I think for me, I will just say what it was like for me. It was not just one-off event. It was a series of events. You know how sometimes people say, "Oh, God is going to give you only that which you can handle," and I was always wondering. Um, God probably really had a lot of faith in me because I was given a divorce, a very bad one, after 17 years. And it was like a complete dissolution of this relationship through really bad separation. And then followed by a death of my sister from cancer. And in on the background of being in a very, very, very toxic new relationship that was absolutely soul destroying for me. And I think at that point, I was wondering, like, will I ever survive this? Because I was challenged. I was, I felt like I was bashed on all levels, physical, emotional, spiritual, broken down, heartbroken, devastated, in a complete desperation, and not knowing if I will ever be normal again, if I feel good again. Everything happened at the same time. So I think there was no question that I went through this dark night of the soul, because I felt like, yeah, it's impossible. What are the chances that all of this is happening at the same time? It's just to really test me and how much I have faith in myself. And so, yeah, that's what I want to say. It's not just one event separate and then you return, bounce back. Yeah, sure, you become more resilient when you go through something like that. But when you are absolutely challenged on the financial level, on the survival level, on the emotional strength, how much do you want to, return to normal life, your health, getting depressed, anxiety, fear. It was really one of these times in my life when I hit the rock bottom. I was on my knees and I was just begging for some kind of a relief. And yeah, it was just the empty shell of me. Um, and I'm sure that so many people can resonate with this, because it's not just some bad event. It was so intense that it changed me. It's probably just completely rewired my brain. And I know you also had some of your personal experience like that not that long ago. Um, what was the point where you started thinking, will I ever be okay?
Well, I think for me, um, it was pretty much when it first happened, it was basically when I'd given birth to twins. And there were all kinds of totally unforeseeable complications that happened. Even the very day when I got home, I was in intensive care straight after birth, and then finally they sent me home. And even the very first day I got home, an ambulance had to be called, and I was rushed back into hospital. And so and then there were just ongoing complications, health complications, and it made it very, very difficult having two babies to look after. So it was an absolutely massive. I wasn't sure if I was even going to get through it. It was a life-changing situation, absolutely life-changing. And it sort of gets to the point where, first of all, you just need to be focused on getting through the days. It's just simply, where every hour it's an achievement. It's an achievement just to be able to make it to the next hour. And there's no enjoyment. It's simply impossible. There's no happiness, there's no pleasure, there's no enjoyment. It's just absolute darkness. And it's just a question of living it, breathing it, just keep going, keep showing up, just keep getting through the days is what I used to call just keep getting through the days. It
Mm.
doesn't even really feel like living. It just simply feels like coping. It's like I'm coping at the moment. I'm surviving at the moment. And then it took a good few months. I was in hospital for a month, separated from my newly born twins, and it took a good few months before I actually felt like life kind of resembled anything that was slightly normal, where I was able to sort of perhaps look forward to something or to feel, enjoyment about something. And this was, I mean, this was just a totally unforeseeable situation, just being thrown into hell. Yeah, so it took time to be able to focus on. I remember being surprised that I actually felt like I was enjoying the day. It it was like, wow, I actually felt good today, like that's such an amazing feeling. And I started to remember how good it was to actually be able to feel happy, to feel relaxed, to even look towards the future, because when you're in that situation, the future's incredibly scary. The future, it's not nice to think about the future. The future becomes this dark cloud. And there's nothing to sort of look forward to. But as you start emerging, and it's time, this is the thing, it's time takes care of everything. And it's just as time passed, it got to a point where the little things became so much more enjoyable. Just being able to feel at peace. We simply cannot underestimate how important it is to
Oh my
just
God,
feel
yes.
calm, to have peace of mind, and to just be able to relax. Those are extremely, there's many people around the world at the moment who don't have peace of mind, who don't have the luxury of being able to just, look forward to things or look forward to the future. So those were the first things that I fully, fully appreciated. The ability to relax, the ability to feel like I was in charge of my own destiny more so. And also then it started to turn more towards finding meaning and purpose and understanding that there was some reason why that happened. There must have been, it just didn't make sense otherwise.
That's
And
right.
how about you, Anna? Did you find that you were at a certain point that was sort of identifiable point where you felt your strength returning, or you felt some form of optimism was starting to come back into your life?
I think very similar to what you've experienced. I remember the new year of 2021 to 2022, and 21 was the worst year out of all. That's when my sister passed away. And I remember the new year very well because I actually was not looking forward to the new year. I was actually terrified. For me, it was like, what else is going to happen? Is anything else going to happen? Is anybody else going to die? Is anybody else going to go down in some way? And I was so resentful of the new year. I'm like, I don't want to go into the new year. And so, and then, you kind of crawl. That's what it felt. It felt like I was crawling on my knees day after day after day. It was so uneventful, not exciting, not even joyful. I forget about the word joy. I think I was just surviving. Like you'd said, if I get to sleep okay, then, tick, done well. And that went on, same as for you, went on for months and months and months. And you sort of get distracted. You go into, work and you speak to other people and you sort of start to dilute the depression and all of this with other things. You get busy. But then, when you get busy, something happens. You kind of forget what happened. You didn't, but you sort of, focus on other things. And anything else that might happen later on, little stress or something like a small change would work as a trigger again. Um, and I think that's probably maybe, one of those multiple trauma things when it's so deep that little stress would be a trigger to, the grief, bring up the grief and um, yeah, just I guess it went on for another year for sure. After that, I think I started traveling. And for me, that was the turning point. For me, it was a big turning point going to India. And that's where my healing started. What about you? What was for you when you started going into the looking for meaning part of this?
I think it was when I started to turn increasingly towards my spiritual connection, because I had lost faith in God. I just felt like I'd been thrown into an absolute black hole, and there was absolutely no sense of connection to anything at all. It was just pure hell. And then gradually, as time passed, I was open more to receiving messages, signs, synchronicities. I started to build my faith and my trust again when I felt like I was having that divine connection, divine communication, just seeing signs all around, just anything small, just a white feather on the floor, which for me has always been a very, very important sign. Is that loved ones are around. It's a very common spiritual sign that you're being protected, you're being looked after. It feels like you're experiencing everything completely by yourself, but you aren't at all. You are being guided every single step of the way, even when it feels like you're in absolute hell all by yourself. They are by your side. And so just little things like seeing the white feathers, also having, because I have to also point out is that sometimes, and I don't know whether this happened to you, Anna, but sometimes they try and prepare us for things. Sometimes little warning signs might show up, or things that we may have perhaps been aware of. I mean, for me, the night I gave birth, I had this terrifying premonition in the hospital. Some people, maybe not most, but some people are sort of in this lovely, sort of syntocinolone fueled bond, with their newly born baby. And it just feels like the love and the warmth and the connection just overrides. But for me, I was, in emergency care, and I was having these terrifying premonitions where they were incredibly realistic. It's almost like a dream that feels more real than reality. Where I was dreaming of sort of major, like it was like a major tsunami. I've never had a dream like that before. And I knew when I woke up, I knew, oh, this is, this is a bit of a sign here. And that was spirit sort of communicating with me to say, look, there are going to be challenges ahead. And really, it's about knowing that you will be finding your inner strength because you've got no choice. You simply have to find that inner strength from somewhere. And it's in those situations as well that you really do find out what you're capable of, which is a lot more than we think. We have levels of strength that we don't even realize. It's only when we're put in those types of situations. So yeah, I guess for me it was really about just knowing that there was a much, much, much bigger form of intelligence, knowing that although I was experiencing a lot of suffering, that I was being held by this divine assistance. And in that situation, it's really just a question of keeping the faith. Sometimes you have to have faith that could literally move mountains.
That's right. I think yes, yes, it's that faith, still believing that this is not the end. This is just temporary. And when you lay there in bed at night and you can't sleep, you think this is it. This is going to be the rest of my life, and I'm stuffed and I'm depressed and nothing good is going to happen to me. But that's how mind is tricking. Mind is such a trickster. And I think what you said is really important about having faith and having hope, even in the darkest hour. I think having hope, even like 1% will be enough to pull anybody out of this misery. Doesn't matter how long it will take. Do you have would you like to share anything that you did, or maybe from your clients, how they did it, or how you did it? How did you start to recover and bounce back? And again, the lessons. What was this sort of lesson? How did you interpret the events?
So with me, I mean, I had been reading tarot cards for a very long time, but it was only ever a hobby. I never really considered it to be a serious undertaking in terms of that I'd be helping other people. I was a classroom teacher. It was an amazing tool for me when I was a teacher. It gave me a great deal of insight and understanding about, the children I was teaching, about the families I was working with. So for me, even when I was in the depths of absolute despair, and I sort of had to have a break from it because sometimes if we're just simply not in the mindset, it's very, very difficult to take on board spiritual guidance because we're just simply not in a receptive state of mind. So, in that situation, the most important thing is to focus on getting through the days and trying to build up some strength. But then after that, that's when the mind starts to kind of become open again. There's a sort of an openness to receiving some kind of guidance or clarity. So that was for me, turning back to the cards and just gaining so much hope from every thing that I was seeing in the cards, and knowing that there was a divine communication that was taking place. And this is, it's not just about the cards. This divine communication takes place in many different ways. We have no idea that when we're in a receptive state, we are having all kinds of divine beings around us who are feeding thoughts into our minds, who are giving us little signs here and there, and then suddenly things happen, coincidences, synchronicities. So that for me was the huge turning point, was finding my purpose, finding and also being truthful to myself and being authentic and owning the fact that I was doing the tarot cards. Before that I may have been, not wanting to fully embrace that, perhaps because I had my own fears around that, or I wasn't really sure that, tarot cards are very, very misunderstood in our society.
Mm.
Some people don't like tarot cards. They think that they are negative in some way. And that was the most important thing for me, was knowing that that was part of my truth, that there was a gift, and so what? Who cares? If somebody else doesn't understand it, that's their journey, not mine. So I think sometimes when we go through the dark night of the soul, we also get to a point where we can be unapologetically accepting of ourselves. And the gifts that we have might not be conventional. They might not be very sort of mainstream or whatever, but we just arrive at a level of self-acceptance, which wasn't possible before going through that.
Yes, yes, and you're so spot on because I was sitting there and thinking, if everything is taken away from me, what have I got to lose? Nothing, nothing. There's nothing to fight for anymore. Okay, my sister passed away. I watched her dying. I lost my marriage, my family, and yeah, I felt like there was so many losses that I felt like I lost control over my entire life. And if everything is taken away from a person, um, that's where the true unconditional regard for your life comes from. Like, I have life, right? I'm alive. I'm still here, and that's a start. And I can still carry on. And and yes, for you it was an absolute change in your professional direction, and you started doing tarot. And I think this is brilliant. I really love your readings, always very helpful. And for me, it was going to India, and India for me was very new. And I found my purpose in India, now doing retreats for women in India and turning into Hindu philosophy. And since then, I haven't looked back. I just realized that the ancient knowledge, the ancient philosophy was my cure from my misery. Once I started reading it, understanding it, and recognizing that the life before, the suffering, the depression and anxiety, it's an illusion of the mind, that we believe in that illusion, unfortunately. But then once I started realizing that actually, well, this body will be here as long as it will be, but then my spirit will carry on, and I will live again maybe. And what is the most important lesson out of all of this is not how much I have achieved, how much I have done, it's how much I enjoyed, how much I laughed, how much I connected to wonderful people in my life. It's that. And I would say to everybody who is going through this dark night of the soul is it's a temporary, it's not forever. There's always light at the end of the tunnel. And I think the most important thing is to find that unconditional love for your life, regardless of what goes on. Because when you have yourself, you've got yourself, and that's a start. There's hope. And little by little, things always get better, always. And I think for you, it was a turning point in your career. And for me as well, it was turning point. I turned into spirituality so much more than ever before.
So I'd love to hear more about your retreats, Anna, because to be quite honest, going on a retreat is probably the most powerful way to reset every aspect of your mind, body, and spirit. The situation that I was in at the time, obviously, I had newly born twins and, so on and so forth. And it was in the middle of COVID. So it wasn't possible for me. But I think if I'd had some other type of crisis where I could have been able to go on a retreat, I think that would have been an absolutely amazing opportunity because it's a way of being able to reset every aspect of your being, mind, body, and spirit. So, could you just describe a bit more how, I mean, that is such a brave thing as well to be able to go overseas and to take a group of people. It's a fascinating sort of career pivot for you.
Yes, it is. And you're right. It does take a bit of courage to do it. But same as what you said previously, you do get that courage. Once you've got through the hell and you come on the other side, you become way more courageous. And so it doesn't mean you're not scared of doing things and changing your job and career and but you do have more, way more faith in your life and yourself. And I started doing that because I've done myself previously 15 retreats as a participant in Bali and in Thailand and Australia and other parts of world. So I was always into the retreats. And one of the reasons why I so much believe in retreats is because I think if somebody is looking for that kind of transformation or reset, healing, rejuvenation, and renewal on a very deep level, you gotta take yourself out of your environment where you are. So it doesn't mean if you have a nice house where you live and loving family, it's all good and great. But there's something about going into a different environment, supportive of the healing. So imagine India. It's an ancient land where some of the greatest masters lived and walked, right? Lord Shiva, and Krishna and all of that. So imagine India. It's just the hub. It's a spiritual hub of the world. And going to India already in itself is healing. But then arriving into the place where everything is around Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is like Chinese traditional medicine. It's Indian traditional medicine where everything is about healing your body holistically. Okay. And that includes daily treatments just customized to your dosha, your body type, and talking to Ayurvedic doctor about your personal health and some things you will never speak to your doctor here in the West. and then coming together with like-minded people, because I believe that when women come together, the energy expands exponentially. It's this female group of like-minded people. When we get together, we start to share, open up, and that's where the healing starts. And I'm guiding that, I'm facilitating. There's no lecturing, anything like that. I'm just guiding women through this process. They discover their own depth, the deep stuff. And we cry and we laugh and all of that, in the beautiful setting with jungle and big blue sky and full moon, and we have this big backwaters, Alipi backwaters. Imagine that, just imagine that. So it's you're being taken care of from you're in the love cocoon. And then of course there's a visit to temple, very, very spiritual moment where you almost like shake hands with the spirit. Some of these temples are 3,000 years old and they're not for tourists. I take people to places that are not touristic places. They are really hidden temples where no one goes unless you're local. And then, I'm taking them to a houseboat, which is a beautiful, beautiful boat taking you out in that water channel to see the nature and look at the sunset. It's just stunning. It's stunning. Like I can't even describe the faces of the women arriving exhausted, tired, jet lag, not sure what's going to happen, and then leaving, going home and going, oh my gosh, Anna, I wish I knew this before. And I never wanted to come to India. I thought it was all dirty and I thought it was all poor. But now I have completely changed my mind about India. And so I do it because I know this worked for me.
I think it's an amazing gift and an amazing blessing to be able to go on one of your retreats. So yeah, I think that would be an amazing way of um, getting yourself onto your healing journey in an incredibly supportive environment.
Exactly, exactly. And I know for sure, I stand by 100% because I've seen the transformation in myself and I was doing my own retreat as a participant and now I'm taking people and I can see what they are experiencing. So there's no doubt, there's no doubt. If anyone wants to really feel that reset, deep reset, this is it. This is it, yeah. So yes, you have to come.
I'm absolutely certain I'll be joining you on one of your retreats.
Yes, and you will not regret for sure. And that was the only thing that really pulled me out of where I was. So, yeah, anything else you would like to say as a maybe some tips and takeaways that people can, you know, take from this conversation?
I think the most important thing is to focus on your passions. The things that you really are drawn to, the things that give you a sense of meaning and purpose. It could be anything, anything at all. But that is really what your soul is. There's a reason why you are drawn to the things that you are drawn to. And, if we try to stop ourselves in some way or we fear judgment or whatever it is, it's almost as if there's a part of our soul that isn't being fulfilled or we're not being true to ourselves in some way. We're denying ourselves our own basic calling. So I think that's it's about self-awareness. I think that's the most important thing, more than anything, is to know yourself. And as you rightly pointed out, the mind can't always be trusted. The mind often tells us lies. It tells us that, we can't do things or we shouldn't do things, or it judges, it limits, it restricts. We've really, really got to find a way to kind of be friends with our mind, but not let it rule us. To know that generally speaking, if the thoughts are negative, they're not true. They're not true because I found from personal experience when we have extremely positive thoughts, positive, hopeful, optimistic, surrender, all those types of things. That is when your guides, we all have a team of guides. Every single one of us has got a team of guides working on the other side. And there's sometimes they just can't get through to us, especially if we're in a state of severe depression or anxiety. They cannot get through to us because their vibrational frequency is so much higher. It's like trying to kind of get through a brick wall. The earth plane is already very, very dense. So for them to sort of be around, they have to change their vibrational frequency. And then for them to have to try and get onto our vibrational frequency, that's even more difficult. But they are always there. And that's why sometimes things happen to catch our attention. Sometimes the light starts flickering. Or in some cases, things are left. Things perhaps can sometimes be left in the room, and you're like, I didn't put that there. Or, and there's a knowingness. There's an absolute knowingness when that happens. Or it might be that you're in the garden and a beautiful, beautiful butterfly catches your attention. And the feeling that you have when you see it, you know that that's some kind of message from spirit. You know that that is somebody on a higher plane of awareness who is trying to communicate with you. They're trying to just temporarily pull you out of that everyday sort of hamster wheel, and they're trying to say to you, just look, there is magic. This is a temporary existence. This is about you finding your magic in a world which often seems heavy and challenging. So that's what I personally find inspiration in, is when there are messages around that are coming in from all kinds of different sources, being open and knowing that our loved ones are always ready to speak to us whenever we're ready.
Very interesting. Yes. And I've also had, previously seeing 1-1 and lately 6-6 everywhere. It's unbelievable. I'm not into numerology, but I can take it as a sign because it's just no chance that it just happens all the time. No chance. I'm not on the lookout for the numbers. But you're right. They are looking after us, and I know this for sure because the dreams I've had were unbelievable. Some of the dreams, I know there are spirit guides who are with us and always protecting us and looking after us. So it's so true. But on a practical level, I think what I could say as what to take away from this is to start disciplining the mind, yeah, because it's the biggest problem when you go through crisis. The mind will tell you the worst case scenario, like this is it, you might die or something like that. So disciplining the mind, for me also, getting out in the nature, getting out, going out, whatever, walks. If I can't walk, I will just sit on the bench, putting feet on the grass, putting feet in the ocean, doing something. It's so good. A small thing, doesn't cost anything. And of course, having somebody who would give you hope. Like I was coming to you, I was asking for your guidance, and you were guiding me. You were telling me, yeah, you know what? Yeah, there's a dark tunnel, but you have this coming up, and this is gonna change for the better. So that was amazing having somebody who can actually look into your spiritual side, your unconscious mind, and guide you a little bit. And I think it's so important to have some kind of a mentor, some kind of a support group who can help, because being alone in the crisis is 10 times worse. Yeah.
I completely agree with you, Anna. And there are so many different types of support groups nowadays. And, I know that we often hear about the more negative side of social media, but there is also, it's about the intentions of the people who are using it. There are also a lot of support groups that you can join. A lot of people who may be going or who have gone through similar situations to you can be a great source of support. And this is what you need. You need to be around people who are encouraging you, who are giving you optimism. You need to be around people who have belief in you.
Mm,
That's the most important thing. You've got to be very careful about who you share your energy with. Sometimes it's not always that easy, in the workplace. Sometimes we do have to deal with difficult people. But by and large, you can start to really become quite careful about who you are sharing your energy with or what you're taking on board. You don't have to take everything on board, with the people that you're dealing with on a daily basis. But whoever you are sharing your energy with, you are picking up their energy as well.
for
So it's
sure.
important to bear that in mind.
Yes, because I think when you hit that rock bottom, your frequency is so at the bottom as well, and you can't even see the end of it. You don't see anything good at all. Even if you live in a beautiful island, you will not see the beauty. You will not see the beautiful sky and sunsets because it's kind of like this darkness all around you. And at that point, I think having somebody with a higher frequency, somebody who is, you know, a higher in the vibration to you, is important because you will be pulled up. If it's a right person with the right skill set and right intentions, I've had that when people were pulling me up a little bit out of the state of such a heavy state. So yeah, I think for sure, having someone like that is so good, so good. So yeah, no need to do this crisis alone. I think it's crazy. But what are your final words?
I would just like to say to anybody who is watching this that we have so much inner strength that we don't think we have. And we also have gifts that are hidden away from us that sometimes we don't discover those gifts until later on in life or at different stages throughout life. So, what you've got to remember is that how well do you actually know yourself? You know, that's really the most important thing is to honor your own truth, be true to yourself, and just honor your own truth. Don't be afraid of, don't feel as if you have to live your life the way that somebody else lives their life. You don't need anyone's approval. You only need your own approval.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I also want to say that if anyone who is listening is going through this dark night of the soul, um, there's a reason why. There's always a reason why, and at the end of it, you'll come to understand that that was the transformation that your soul have chosen, um, whether it's something to do with the purpose, like for you, whether it's something to do with self-love, I think for me it was a lot about self-love, like how much do I love myself? Do I love myself enough to get through this? And yeah, because for me it was a lot to do with relationships, for you it was a lot to do with your purpose and direction. So for everybody is different, but whatever it is always has a golden nuggets in it. And I hope, if somebody's listening and you find those golden nuggets, the meaning of that, the greatest awakening, a lesson, and a gift. It's actually a gift of transformation. So yeah.
That's exactly right. And I think whatever stage everyone's at, whether you're somebody who's in survival mode at the moment, that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely okay. Getting through the day is a massive achievement. Well done if you're one of those people. Give yourself a big pat on the back just for getting through the hours and getting through the days. Or if you're somebody who's kind of moved past that and you're sort of in a state of doubt or uncertainty, again, give yourself a pat on the back. The fact that you're still showing up and you're working through all of that stuff. And really, we've got to remember not to be hard on ourselves. That's the most important thing, and to just keep on keeping on, and remember that life is always about change. Nothing ever stays the same forever. Everything changes. So just remember that whatever nightmare you may or may not be experiencing, time will take care of it one way or another. So just keep the faith.
Yes, 100%. Very, very true. And if people want to reach out to you, where can they find you, on what platform?
Okay, so I have got a Facebook page. It's called The Wise Path. And I've got some reviews and things like that because sometimes when people are in a very vulnerable space, it's very difficult, to open up or to sort of seek guidance when you're not really sure, is this person going to be able to help me? So I would recommend that you really do some research. Have a good look at people, check their reviews, check their page, and then hopefully that will make help the decision to be more informed. So my page is called The Wise Path, and it's a Facebook page.
Okay, wonderful. And yeah, we will have the links in the video as well.
Yes.
Yes, okay, brilliant. And likewise, if anybody wants to join India retreat, experience Hindu philosophy, and see how this transformation can work for you, India is the place for that for sure. So yeah, annaresnicoaching.com.au and Anna Resnick Coaching Retreats. So I hope we can chat again at some point
Yes.
because I'm so keen, really interested in your work. I know you're going to study now traditional Chinese medicine and all to do with that. And so excited. I'm so excited for you. Okay, Louise, I am grateful that you could speak to me today, and let's do this again.
That sounds lovely. And I hope that we have brought some inspiration and hope to anybody out there who's watching this.
Yes,
You
yes,
can get through it,
yes,
definitely,
yes. There's always way out, always.
always.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you, Anna.
Thank you.